you my experiences and give my perspective, my understanding of how is extraterrestrial contact changing our world. Well, if you look around the room, this was not something that people could have done easily, even 30 years ago. Gather like this to learn only about this subject. And we have come a very long way from 25, 30 years ago. Okay. I don't know if you can read that. But I wanted to talk about and start this conversation with the moment that my life changed. Because how many people in the room are familiar with my work? And okay, it's not a lot. So I'm from Canada, and I've had some experiences where I was taken on board a UFO in 1988. So I'll start by sharing what happened. And you know, I just would like to point something out. I think that Debbie, and I love her, I've fallen in love with Debbie Jordan here at the conference, who I met for the very first time. And something, we've talked about how hard this is to share. Imagine in your own lives, imagine that one of the most difficult days for you emotionally, that some experience in your life that you had to take care of and deal with. The most difficult one. Is everyone thinking of that moment? Think about having to get up and share that every single time you spoke. Because that's what we do. We get up and we talk about some of the most difficult emotional times that we have been through in processing and understanding our own experiences. In 1988, I was a young woman. I was 22 years old, and I was living in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And I went with some friends in a car. We drove far in the north to my hometown. And when I returned from this journey, I have to make this short. So please forgive me if I don't give you lots of detail, because I want to share more extraordinary things with you later, okay? In this car were 3 other adults and a child. And I was in the back seat and we were driving. I fell asleep. And in this time, I had an incredible dream. And in the dream, a man, a physically looking man and woman came to me and said, "We are coming for you soon. Do not be afraid. We will see you soon." I thought, what is this? I woke up, I was shaking. I was so overwhelmed by this. So finally, the drivers changed and I went into the passenger seat of the car. My friend got into the driver's seat and the other 2 went in the back. Within minutes of them falling asleep, we noticed that these big lights were coming up behind the car. And we thought that it was some kind of a big truck because the lights were a little bit higher than normal, moving very, very fast. And during this time, what happened was they would fall away every time we saw a town. We would go through a small town. Or if a car was coming towards us, they would slip into the back. They would disappear. This happened for many hours. Finally, we were becoming very, very afraid. We were, I mean, terrified of what was happening. We thought we were being followed, but by who and for what reason, we didn't know. So, this is so hard. So, so difficult today. I've told this story before, but today, for some reason, it's a little more challenging. So what happened was, we're in the car, and we go past through a small town with a very straight road. And we went through red lights. I said, go through the lights. It doesn't matter. No one's around. Go through the lights. So when we came to the next place, at the end, we drove up a very small hill. And just on the other side of the hill, we're in the forest again. Because we live in Canada, we still have beautiful forests. And the second that this happened, I said, there is no way that car can follow us now, because I could see behind me at least 1 mile, at least a mile. Poof, the lights were there again. Immediately, my friend and I went crazy. What is it that's happening? How can this be happening? Trying to understand. She started to try to drive faster. And finally I looked at her and said, pull over the car. She said, no. I said, pull over the car. No. I said, pull over the bleep, bleep, bleep car now. It's not you they want, it's me. And then she tilted her head and we pulled the car over. And then everyone looked like they were frozen. I'm sitting in the car, awake. The 2 balls of light are hovering just at the back of, thank you, just at the back of the car itself. I turned, it was like light was coming up from everything, under the car, in the cracks of the car, everything. And I turned to the front, and on the road in front of me is a craft, a UFO. And it looks like it's in mist. And in this mist, I see these little beings coming to walk up to me. And they're about this high. And they have round black eyes, but similar to what Debbie Jordan's picture was, but not quite the same. Round black eyes. They look like small children. They said, do not be afraid, we will not harm you. Do not be afraid, get out of the car, get out of the car, do not be afraid. So I watch as my own hand is reaching for the handle. What am I doing? What am I doing? Reaching for the handle. I step out of the car. I stand there, and they walk over, they come around the door, they take me by the hand, I touch them, and they lead me down the highway. Their hands were like smooth and cold, like a can of soda in the fridge. And as they lead me down the road, just a little ways, I see light in front of me. And when we get through, and I see just on the other side of the forest, there is a huge UFO. This is what I saw when I was walking up the hill. I saw in the craft, in the doorway, tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed extraterrestrials. And this is a very similar sketch of what they look like. There's a little bit of difference, but there's a pointer here. Their eyes were up a little bit further, so they were more slanted up this way. And the mouth was a little bit smaller. The nose was also a little bit smaller. But this here, you see this? This was glowing. And it's a triangle. And they also had this on what they were wearing as well. So I saw these 2 blonde-haired, blue-eyed beings, and I walked up the hill, and in my mind I said, what are you doing here? Why can't you leave me alone? And then my mind is fighting itself. What? Who are they? What is happening? Why is this happening? Oh, I can't believe they're here again. What? Why is this happening? What is happening? And then I walk on the craft. Now, I figured out later, okay, that I was gone for 3 hours. 3 hours that I was with them. And while I was with them, many things happened. And that 3 hours, I hear people all the time say, I want to see them. I want to see them. I want to sit with them. If you sit with them, you will never be the same. And I say this because I'm not the same. I walked on as a 22-year-old who was naive, and I had a normal life, and I could think about having that with my husband and maybe children and going to school and all of these things. But that changed. That changed. And what it gave to me, the gift that was given to me that day, I could sit with you for a lifetime and not share with you what they shared with me. I could sit with you for a lifetime and share with you all the gifts that they gave to me. Because as I was growing up, I had many, many psychic abilities, and they started when I was very, very, very young. And as I was getting older, maybe 12, 13 years old, I had more and more of this gifting coming, where I was having premonitions and dreams and visions and so many things. I could see, I could touch energy and all sorts of things, and it kept building and growing and growing and growing throughout my life. So when this happened, it was something that was already a part of my life, the strangeness. And everyone knew what was happening with me. Everyone with the psychic gifts. When this happened, everything changed. And I hope that my hour is going to be enough to really share with all of you what has taken place since then. Because what they did with me was they put me into a chair. And in this chair, it was like made of light. And in this light chair, as I call it, I did not have anything on my head. I've been asked that many times. But what I did have was one of the beings on either side, which were very tall and scary because of their energy, because of how strong they were. And then out in front of me was a huge screen that looked like it was a holographic screen. And on that, they showed me images. Now, this was not like watching a television. It was like every single image that they showed me, I lived. I lived. I had lived so many lives through that moment. It is 25 years later, and I am still processing the information that they gave me. And it is only now that I am beginning to find the language and the words and the expressions to be able to share with you more deeply this experience. Nothing has changed. My knowledge has not changed. But my ability to share it with you has been changing, and this is a very good thing. But I would like to share also that your ability to understand what I am sharing has also changed in this time. And so as a collective community, not only here in this room, but around the world, we have changed. Our awakening to the understanding that there is much more to life than what we believe or think we see. So while I'm in this UFO, they also took me for a little tour of the craft. So in 1991, I made some sketches. And so this is what the craft sort of looked like. It was maybe 40 or 50 feet across. I'm terrible with trying to figure out distance. But it was about 1.5 lengths high. And it seemed like, you know, everything was in balance with each other. I don't even know why I wrote that, but that's what I wrote. So this was the one that I walked onto. And you can see here that there was like lights here, and that's where we got on, and I walked on the craft. And in here, right here, I could see these beings staring at me. And there was another set of lights here, and then here, and it was silver. So this is a sketch that I was on board. And please forgive my Google Translator. I was so tired when I did this. So here's the inside, and this is what I call the control room. The control room is where the part of the craft is, where the propulsion system sits, the energy in order to be able to manifest what's needed in order to get it to move. And this is sort of looking at it from above. This is the very center. This whole thing is the very center of the room from above. And right here, where it says in the center, was a glowing blob of energetic light. And it was like sparking energy coming out to the outside. And here were seats, chairs for the beings to sit at. In order for them to move this craft, it took 3 beings in order to make it move. 1 cannot do it, 2 cannot do it, 3 cannot do it. 3 have to do it. Because they used the telepathy also to connect with what this is. Because it was almost like an organic material. The organic material of what this is particles that are rotating and moving so quickly in itself that it creates arcs of energy that fold over top of the UFO, and then once they arc, they come back around and create a magnetic effect in order to allow them to travel. Here's it looking from another perspective. In the center is where this craft, and I'd like to point something out. You are the very first people that I have ever shared this with in public. So this is the first time that I've ever shared these sketches. I've only let one of them released in the past. This one here is the center, and there's instructions and diagrams. I have all this crazy writing here, but you know, this is the outside where there's control panels and seats as well. And then there's windows that you can see outside. And in order to get out of this room, there's a panel over here that they have to put in some kind of a code. Here's another one. This is a close-up of one of the panels of how it was that they input information into almost like a computer. And there's different graphs and things for the craft itself. There's like, here, it looked like a radar. And what I learned from when they were showing me this is that they monitor the Earth. The Earth is the air, the water, the plants, the animals, and human life. So the questions are, who are they? And I have for a very long time not called them aliens. I called them aliens in my book, so that people would at least understand what I was talking about. I do not care for many of the names that are given. I will not say they are from one star or another, or from one group or another, because these are the beings I had contact with. They are what I call the great ancestors. And why do I call them that? It is because of how I will tie all of these things together. Our ancestors, in any language, are the ancestors that came before us. And this is what they are. They were already here before humanity ever stepped foot on this earth. That does not mean that they control us. That does not mean that they have the right to do anything to us. But they are and were here long before human life was. Why are they interacting with human beings? Well, this is the story, isn't it? This is the question, isn't it? Why are they here? And who are they? There are many different kinds of beings that are here. There's many different ways to interact with them. There's many different things that you can see in different worlds and different ways to interact with these beings. These extraterrestrials come in physical form. They come in the dreams. They come in our meditations. They come in the astral world. They come in many different ways. I've heard many Christians talk about Jesus coming to them. And then when I listen to the description, the only difference for me, and I'm not going to argue Jesus was an extraterrestrial. I will not do that with you. But what I will say is that the description of Jesus and the description of angels is the same as my description of these beings. To me, this is my perspective. This is my experience. Why are they interacting with human beings? Because they helped to create the life on this planet. This also ties in with the genetic programs that people have talked about, and they say, oh my God, they're taking, as Debbie said, they're taking our children, possibly. I know that for myself, I've also had eggs taken from me, and I have no problem with that. Why? Because I was blessed enough to understand from them what this is and what we're talking about. And I'm gonna actually take my little pen, because I do not want you to walk away confused. And I'm gonna make a note here so that I make sure I wrap this up later. Okay. So, are the extraterrestrials our friends? Well, some of them aren't. And let's be very clear about that. Some of them are absolutely not ours. Some of them are not friendly at all. And I'm very happy to say that I don't believe that I've had any experiences with really, really, really negative extraterrestrials. I have had other experiences, but not any that I would say were, well, actually that's not true. I did have one, but it wasn't even with the extraterrestrials, it was with the human life. Because I was taken to a place in the United States called Dulce. And Dulce is an underground military base in the Four Corners area of New Mexico. And I was taken there in the astral world by one of these beings. It wasn't in the physical. And what I saw there was horror for what our people, what our humans are doing. And that had to do with genetic altering. And there were other beings that were present there. And my tall blondes told me, never go here. Stay away from here. Never go here. It's very dangerous. But they wanted to show this to me so that I understood what was happening on the planet behind our closed eyes. To understand the depth, to the point that this experience and these interactions are affecting our planet. How are alien contacts changing the world, and for what purpose? Well, the purpose has many reasons, but the main one that they asked me to share is that they are and maybe to give you a history of this, very, very, very brief. The history that was shared with me is the following. In the beginning, there was a planet called Earth. Maybe not, maybe something else, but let's just call it Earth for the conversation. There was a place that was called Earth, and it had no life. And so they came, these beings, the ones I had contact, and they helped to seed the planet with life. And they threw the seeds of life upon the Earth, and they said, okay, evolve. Free will, evolve. And nothing really happened. Nothing really evolved after millions and millions of years. There was no real life that was here. So they sat down and they said, what do we need to do now? They said, okay, now we're going to try to help the evolution a little bit. And then they came and some people would understand this as being terraforming. And they came and they began to seed the life. And they put basic plants, animals, this kind of thing here. And they waited again for the evolution, and nothing really happened. And then things were cleaned on the Earth. And I believe, from my perspective, from what I would put together, that maybe this was the dinosaur age, and that they wiped it out. The third world that they talked about was a world where what they did was they decided that what is the purpose of what they were trying to do was to create a vehicle for the God source spark of life. And I am again going to reference Debbie, because in the evolution of the beginning of all life, including them, including everything that exists, what they shared with me was that we came from something that I call the great central sun. And from that, and from within that, the sparks of life were let go all over the planet, and they seeded life in any and all forms everywhere. And many of these sparks of life have consciousness, and this consciousness is what and who each one of us is. So today, you are a consciousness as what we know as human beings. Tomorrow, if you die, you will become a consciousness of another form, whether that is in another dimensional world, or it is another type of life as an extraterrestrial. And the extraterrestrials are in many forms. They are physical, they are astral, and there are also some of them that live under the earth here. There are also others on other planets, and others that remain on massive, massive, massive ships that are in the entire universe and solar system. So, going through this, what we ask ourselves is, the great ancestors, as the tall lawns, have been guiding us and watching over us for thousands and thousands of years. So what is it that they are watching over us for, and why? Why are they interested? Well, because in the third world, the human being, not man. Okay? All the women got that. But human life was created. And when the human life was created, again, it was seeded around the planet. You have to understand that your body is a limitation and a gift to you at the same time. In this moment, and always will be. Okay. When they gave us the human body form, the sparks of life and the consciousness were then able to incarnate onto the earth. And the purpose of this is because in many of the other worlds that exist, there's a telepathic communication, whether that is either in the physical form or in the astral form or in the other worlds. And by doing so and having that telepathic communication, you tap into absolutely everything all at the same time. And as you tap into everything all at the same time, if you wanted to take someone by the hand and touch their hand and look at the lines on their hand, or pick a flower, or look at the water as the drops fall into the other waters, it's very challenging. It's very hard to do this. So, the consciousness and the physical body, or lack of consciousness, both at the same time, give us the gift of being able to really experience life. This is not about having lessons. You're not here to learn a lesson. You're not here about karma. You're not here about past lives. You're here about the moment, about what it is and what you have right now. That is the point. And I would like to just point out in this moment that everything I'm sharing with you is what they told me. This is not my opinion. If it's my opinion, I'll tell you it's my opinion. But what I'm stating to you is what was shared with me. So, we move forward, and they are watching over us and guiding us for all of this time. So the third world, keep going back to that, the third world, we go to that, and we're given the forms, and we're given a great deal of ability to tap into these other worlds. As we tap into the other worlds, what happened in this world was that mass chaos took place. And we began to have genetic testings, and we started to change the life of what everything was, and we started to destroy the world. And then we got really stupid. Because at that point, we decided that we were invincible, and we could do whatever we want. So they started making technologies. And these technologies